Hello, Revere, and welcome to our next show on the school committee, which we have here Mr. Al Terminiello Jr., who's running for the school committee. Al, let me say thank you for taking the time off to come down here.
My pleasure, as always, Morris. I like being on the show. Of course, I like dealing with everybody and talking to people in Revere, my favorite place.
Right, and it's an honor to have you. But before we start, I got to say this to you, Al. You are a pillar to the community. And I'm not going to elaborate because I would be here all day and all night. But I want you to tell us of something. What made you run for school committee?
Well, what made me run for school committee is I've been active in this community my whole life. I've dedicated my life to making Revere a better place. I graduated from Revere High School in 1971, and then I attended the New England Institute of Mortuary Science, where I graduated from that and got my state embalming license, which I was in. Everybody knows me from Revere. I was in the funeral business for many years. And then I did an about face, and I went to an electronics school, and I became a senior field engineer in electronics for the Siemens Nixdorf Corporation. And I traveled around the country for that. I did that for about 8 years. I was considered one of the top printer specialists in the country, in the top 5 actually. So they kind of sent me around a lot of places. So it was pretty good. In the middle of all that, I kind of learned a little trade that people know me for. It's called photography. I kind of picked that up here and there. Actually, I learned that with the medical examiner's department, which I was a forensic investigator for them while I was going to embalming school. So I learned photography by taking pictures of crime scenes, and then it just expanded into people who were actually moving at the time. But that's where I got my start with that.
You spent some time with our great newspaper here, the Revere Journal and the Advocate.
Right. I worked for the old Journal, and I was one of the founding members of the independent newspaper group. I worked there for a while, and then I left, went out on my own. Now I work for the Advocate newspaper. And I've been working with the Special Needs, Revere League for Special Needs for 50 years. I started when I was 13 years old working for them, and it just carried on. I started it as a community service project to become an Eagle Scout, which I'm proud to be a part of that group. And it stayed with me, and they're the best people. I enjoy the whole program. I want to see things expand for them. And unfortunately, like I said, the next step for me is that hopefully the people in Revere vote for me, because I have a lot of ideas that I want to expand some of the things that have been kind of overlooked.
Can you mention some of them here?
Well, autism is a very big part of the world right now. There's still 1 to 66 kids born with some form of autism in the group. We have a lot of autistic kids attending schools, and they don't really see much of the programs expanding to modernize it as much as some of the other programs do, and I'd like to see that happen. Like I said, we have a program in Revere called CPAC, which are the Special Education Parents Group, that they get together, and they've been around for 10 years. And I brought them together with the Revere League for Special Needs for the first time in 10 years this past spring. I got both groups together to do a joint venture. We thought it would be sitting together with Michelle DeMauro and Peter Del Greco, who are the presidents of the two groups. Instead of having the kids all those brought into a room as a meeting, we decided we had a spring dance. So we brought the two groups together with a dance. My band played there at it, and it was a great time. And that was the first step of what we want to do for the fall that's coming up. We're having we're putting together maybe some educational things to combine both groups to offset social and educational, to expand their horizons in the community. I'd like to see sporting events that are geared in the school system for special needs, handicapped kids. There's some outside the school, but you know, when you go to school and you're in high school, you've got the football team, the basketball team, and you're a Revere High School patriot. Well, don't you think maybe some of these kids that are less fortunate than others, to say the least, that try and that in part of they want to be part of the community. Don't you think they'd like to wear the name Revere High School Patriot on their jersey, even if it's a ping pong tournament? But they have floor basketball. Myself, I'm involved in. I'm nationally ranked archer. I'm 13th in the nation in my age group. I shoot with people with no arms, no legs, in wheelchairs. There's all kinds of. It's just to name one sport. So there's things that people with disabilities can be part of a bigger group than just put aside or treated differently. They want to be, we talk about diversity and bringing everybody together. There's still a large part of this community, which are all special needs kids in one sort or another, that are being left behind. And I think Revere, we ought to step up and make them part of the mainstream of the school system.
You're right. Now, Al, you do a lot of functions to raise money for the kids for school. Tell us some of them. And also that you work with your friend, Ira
Novoselsky, yeah. Well, okay. I help a lot of groups. There isn't a group in the city of Revere that I haven't helped in some way or manner. But I tell them straight out, I will not ask for money or sell tickets for only two groups, the veterans and the special needs. Those are the only two groups that I get money for. I ask for donations. I give my time. I get them coverage. I'll do whatever it takes. But myself and Ira Novoselsky 9 years ago, or maybe even 10, we formed the Revere Veterans Committee.
It's great,
And up until that point, the city, not to get into that, but the city hadn't had Veterans Day services. It kind of fell off. We brought that all back. We have one of the best Veterans Day celebrations, and we should celebrate the veterans of this community. They've gave of themselves. They gave 100% of themselves to defend this country. Whether you agree with whatever war they're in, it's got nothing to do with it. The fact that they got up and went and left their families and loved ones behind is another story. But be that as it may, the first thing that we did after we formed the Veterans Committee, we formed a scholarship fund. And since the first year that we were incorporated as the Revere Veterans Committee, we've been giving out a cash scholarship to a graduating student to Revere High that's going into the service. Now we say cash scholarship because let's face it, he's not going to Yale or anybody, he's going into the service.
Right.
Everybody could use a few bucks when you're going into the service
It's
to
not
buy
a few
something.
bucks, Al. It's not a few bucks.
There's something that everybody wants, to buy a little something for yourself. So that's what we do. We're looking to expand that. We're trying to raise more funds so we can give out more money. Ira and I are at the American Legion concert series. We're out there every Sunday of every summer. So for 8 weeks, Ira and I are out there barbecuing and selling hot dogs and hamburgers for a couple of bucks to help raise money for the scholarship fund. So, when it comes down to that, is every Sunday afternoon I have to make sure that I'm home, and I do it gladly to make sure that we're here and we get that going. Unless I have to work, and then we get some guest chefs in, but we raise money for the Revere Scholarship Fund. And I'd gladly raise money. There's ways to raise money for things. I have parents come to me for everything. They talk to me about how come we don't have this program in the school system? How come we don't do this? Because listen, I'm at everything. I see who's not there and who is there, and believe me, we don't get a much representation of the way the school committee is set up right now. They go to their meetings, but they're not out there because I'd see them. I mean, and a few things, granted there's a few, but they need to, you need more of a presence because the kids want to know who they're dealing with. You can't expect a student to come to people with problems or with ideas when you ask them something if they don't trust you or know who you are. I was fortunate enough that I'm in the position that I'm in, but at graduation day at Revere High School, I was taking my pictures on the sideline, and I had a bunch of graduates that came up to me, shook my hand, girls and guys, and said, I want to thank you for being there all for 4 years while I played ball, or I did this for this thing, or I was part of this, or I was part of the Friends group, or the volleyball fundraisers that they had. Whatever it took, you know, I've been part of it, and so ask me why I want to get involved in the school committee. I believe that I can bring more to the Revere School Department by being myself. I don't answer to anybody, no special interest groups. You know, if I don't agree with what the mayor has to say, I don't agree. I don't agree with what you have to say. I don't agree.
That's right, all right. That's what we're here for.
I want to open my mouth, and I can do things. You know, I want to raise money for special groups. You want to raise some money? If I had a fundraiser, I'd get his money and give it to special needs sports events. They're talking about cutting sports in the high school because of the lack of funds. And that's another big problem. And some of the parents want to actually start. They've come to me, and I know they haven't mentioned it because they haven't mentioned it on any of the school, anything been brought up other than being mentioned to me on the outside that I have no say right now. I hope after November I will.
All right.
But they want to start a young field hockey team, like for girls in the 8th grade, because we don't have a younger team. And what happens is the girls join it when they're in high school. They get croaked. The field hockey girls have been getting beat because they don't have a farm team to grow up to and get involved with. So they said, well, why can't we? I said, I don't know why you can't. I can't go to a meeting and throw my 2 cents in right now, but I can if you vote for me in November. So, you know, and I've had parents come up to me, I need to get my son a letter of recommendation to get into this school. Who can I? And I've got them in touch with the right people. I'm fortunate. Like I said, I'm at a lot of things. I'm close with a lot of people in the community. I love doing what I do, or else I wouldn't do it. I do it in other communities. I was just recognized by the American Legion in Malden for a part I played in a Medal of Honor ceremony at Holy Cross Cemetery. I work for the DAV. They use me for their photographs for their conventions and stuff. They know they can trust me, and word gets around of. And I'm not a veteran. I don't pretend to ever be.
You may not be a veteran, but let me tell you, as a World War II veteran, and I am a veteran, you are more of a veteran than a lot of veterans
well,
are.
that's. But I'm honored that men and women like yourself welcome me into their VFWs or their posts or whatever.
It's an honor to have you come with us.
I'm brought in as a brother, and like I said, I don't ever pretend to be a veteran.
Yes, you are. You're a community veteran, one of the best.
But I do know that good people need good work, and I try to provide the good work for the good people of the city of Revere.
I wrote some questions down, and I can't understand my own handwriting.
Shoot.
I scribbled it.
Yeah.
But maybe you can make it out, and you can talk about it.
Okay. The thoughts about the new apartment buildings going up in Revere.
Right, which is going to bring in a lot of families and kids.
Now, well, you know, the Revere school system right now is overcrowded as it is. We've built 5 new schools.
You're talking about a new high school, too. You can bring that up.
Yeah. Well, right where you're going to put it. See,
adjacent to the old high school.
Yeah, it took an act of Congress to build the one across the street here. You know, they took a park away and they had to move this and they had to give that and
that school right here.
Oh, the new school. But because they had no place to put it, so now I know they want to build it adjacent to it, and again, at what expense? The ball fields, the soccer field, the parking lot. You keep going. You know, you build, but you take away. But that's another story. What I want to deal with is the fact that we have new schools that are already overcrowded. We're bringing in students from other cities and towns.
Why are we doing that?
It's a federal program.
Okay.
And you know, it's a.
Then let the federal program pay for it.
Yeah, they give you money, they take money away, but the problem is Revere doesn't have the room. I understand that you want to take so much money, but Revere doesn't have the room to put more kids in the classroom. Now they wanted to bring in, you know, put all these apartment buildings up here. They're killing the taxpayer, and you don't see anybody from the Revere School Department up at a council meeting telling them to knock it off. You need that. I mean, I'm talking to hundreds of Revere residents that are outraged over these apartment buildings. It's got to stop. I attended a meeting, a special meeting at the Paul Revere School that was called at the last minute that nobody knew about. It was myself and a couple other candidates. But the two counselors that were there, and I'll give them credit, were John Powers and Arthur Guanasso. They were both there because Ward 3 and Ward 5 on Revere Street kind of slide right into each other. They crash into each other is what they do. But so I'll give them credit, but they were there. And, you know, it got very heated. And I don't blame the residents of Revere. I don't blame the taxpayer. We've had enough burden in this city. We want to do the right thing, but we want to do the right thing for Revere. We don't need to do it for outside of Revere or overcrowd our schools for no reason. Bring in more people, non-taxpayers, for a lot of them are Section 8s and whatever they come in with, that these apartments end up going under, falling under so they could rent them out. There's no return to the city of Revere for that. It only costs you money. And I don't think the city of Revere at this point can afford any more of that. So no, I'm dead against more apartments. And I think it's a shame that they're allowing more to be built.
Okay, the next question I wrote, if you can read it.
Well, again, they're coming up with like the sports programs. I touched on that. I'm all for sports programs. You got to understand, sports. Not everybody's a genius. You know, I applaud those who are very, very smart people. But sometimes the only way you can get into some colleges or get some money to pay to go to some colleges is through sports.
Right.
But I'll tell you, I have never seen a better group of student athletes over the last 10 years in my life, because they're not just people that you think of, oh, can you give me a D so I can play ball? We're talking about student athletes. I think the football team had an average of 3.2. That's great. You know, that's not barely getting by. So, but what that shows is that the level of academics is climbing up higher.
Did we not have the #1 superintendent in the country here at one time?
We've had our education program is excellent. Unfortunately, we're overcrowded, and that hurts. And what also slows things down is because of, if you have some of the students that aren't speaking English too well, and things slow, so that it kind of offsets some of the learning curves. So sometimes things are put on hold, some of the programs. We need to be able to identify that and obviously work on making everybody get up to speed on certain things. You can't slow. It always is the way. When you have a bigger class, you're only as fast as the slowest person in that class. So you need to recognize special help and help these kids keep up with the rest of the class, and whatever that takes at this point. I know teachers are under a strain. We have some of the finest teachers around here in the city of Revere. I know most of them. So I'd like to see that this succeed, but not at the cost of sports. Sports are an out. You want to talk about keeping kids off the street. You want to talk about giving them idle hands. Anti-drugs. All these things. Without sports, you have a pile of kids not doing anything.
Exactly.
And just the other thing is, we're talking about kids. They want to, which drives me insane in this state. They want to legalize pot. What part of that does that show? I understand you want to throw it in there with alcohol. If I take alcohol off the shelves, who cares? But just the idea that you want to legalize pot, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, I don't care. Have your own opinions of it. I just think it sets a bad example, and I want to go on record of that I think that's a disgrace. So, you can like me, hate me, whatever you want of me, but what you do see here is what you get. I'm going to tell you how I feel, whether you like it or not. Unless you can prove me wrong, I'll keep my opinion. But bottom line here, in the city of Revere, nothing is more important to me in my life. I've dedicated my entire life to helping the city.
I know the kids are not going to like me for this, but how do you feel about maybe expanding the hours on education, which they have done in some cities and towns?
Well, that's been brought around the block, and actually there was a, and I don't know all the details, but I do know the Paul Revere School was experimenting with a staggered school hours, like a 4-day week as opposed to 5, and then you could come in and the principal had come up with an idea that was brought up to the school committee.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes. I really don't know, to be honest with you, I don't know how that progressed or where it had, but I do know that there's, like anything else, once you change the wheel, there were union problems involved in that. So like I said, it got to be one of those things that it's not just a matter of you can find 100 teachers that are willing to go along with the program, but once the union says, well, we can't do this, well, then that kind of kills a lot of ideas. So I don't know whether it progressed or it got its trial. It had a couple of votes on it, and it was going to be something that, but I haven't heard much more about it, to be honest. Personally, in my loop, I didn't hear any breaking stories because of it.
Okay. Next question.
Well, I don't know what you got here. Let me see. Well, okay. You have feelings of my feelings on members of the school committee, what their involvement in the community should be. To quote a famous chef, I think they ought to kick it up a notch around here. Showing up, sitting at a meeting once every couple of weeks is not my idea of doing your job as an elected official in the city of Revere. I would consider it an honor and a privilege to be there.
Al, exactly what is the job of the function?
Well, that gets into another group of things. When you need to hire a superintendent, the school committee does that. But once you hire the superintendent, you don't have any say in what the superintendent wants to do. So but the school committee sets a lot of policy and pays bills.
We've had at least I know of 2 great superintendents that we've had. Mr. Paul Dakin, as you very well know, was voted the #1 in the nation. And we have a lady that retired, Mrs. Carol Ty, was a great superintendent.
Yeah.
And I believe she's on the school committee.
She's on the school committee. She's a sitting member of the Revere School Committee, and a fine lady at that.
I agree with you on that.
I know Carol, when I was in high school, she was a teacher, so I go that far back with Carol. I didn't take up typing, which I think she was a typing teacher and something else, but I said, what am I ever going to use typing for? But of course, there was no such thing as a computer back in those days. Wish I had because I only learned a couple of fingers worth. As much as I'm on a computer, right. I'm not exactly what people would call fast. But I think the school committee should be a little, myself, again, this is my opinion.
So their job is
to set the policy, they make sure the bills are paid and things are going along. That is the crux of what that is. And that's an important job. There's no question about it.
So they take care of the finances too then?
Yes, they set the budget and how things are going. Of course, they work with the superintendent and the mayor being the chairman of the school committee. But what they do is they keep school flowing. They keep all the schools in the city of Revere. Like I say, you got to pay the bills. You got to, what's going on, what's problems, repairs. That's a very important job.
Then how come some of the teachers have to wind up buying their own equipment?
Well, that's budget, and there's some teachers want to buy some things that aren't.
Yeah, if it's voluntary, but.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. If you want it bad enough or you need it and it's not part of the regular curriculum of the school, then you don't have much of a choice. I do know, and again, things have been changed. I know he's been sick, is the Little Ricky Foundation.
Yep.
They offer money for supplies for the special needs kids in the programs.
Wasn't your mother once part of the special needs?
My mother was the treasurer of
Right.
the Revere League for Special
Special
Needs
Needs.
for about 30 years. Now, of course, she's been in the nursing home, and that's been she stepped down, and there's a whole new regime there, which has brought the Revere League for Special Needs into a whole new century. Which is a good thing. It's really a great program. Matter of fact, tomorrow night they're having a pizza party for the kids. I myself, with the help of my good friends at Bianco Meats and New Deal and Stop and Shop, but I've been running a barbecue for the Revere League for Special Needs for 9 years. That doesn't cost them anything. I supply everything. I do all the cooking, and the kids have a ball. They get a DJ for the day. Alan LaBella comes in, and the kids have a ball. But that's my contribution for the year for them is I throw them an end of summer barbecue. I barbecue. I cook more than Emerald does, I think. The last 9 years for the Historical Society, the Rumney Marsh Burial Ground Society, excuse me, they had the bocce tournament on the beach. I cook for those 180 bocce players every Saturday morning for that. And like I said, I cook every Sunday down the Revere American Legion, and whoever else needs a chef for the day, I volunteer my culinary skills.
I don't mean this sarcastically, and don't take it sarcastically. When I look at you, I look at your father, I look at your mother, I look at your beautiful daughter, Jennifer. You're a great cook.
Yeah, thanks. But again, those are all things that I do. I try to do for the community, and this is why we're here to talk about, to get my ideas and how I feel, and people that don't really know me to get an idea of what I stand for, what I've done. I just hope that people of Revere understand that I ran for school committee the last election. I lost by a few votes. I didn't go away. Other candidates, they disappear. They go away for a couple of years, and they stick their name back on a ballot, and then away they go again, and they campaign for the 2 months of the election. I didn't go away. I stayed here. I kept cooking. I kept collecting money. I kept raising money for Revere High School students who are graduating so they could have something. We have one of the best JROTC programs in the state. I'm so proud of them, and I'm at all their events. When they have competitions at the school, I'm there, which I don't see anybody else.
Okay,
I
excuse
attended
me,
their
I gotta say thank
their
you
proms.
I gotta say thank you for coming. We got about 20 seconds
20
left.
seconds? All right, well, I'll give you 20 seconds to you then.
Thank you, Al.
Thank you.
God bless you for coming, taking the time out.
Thank you very much.
Right, God bless the people of Revere. God bless our great city. God bless our troops, but most of all, God bless our country. And now I wish you the best of luck, and thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.